Looking for something sweet? I know you are. Bring your little sweet self to the Village Bake Shop. Around since 1961, there ain't a baked good in the galaxy the Village Bake Shop can't whip up for you. So when you're ready to treat your mouth to a taste you won't soon forget, get over to the Village Bake Shop in the Village Green Town Center, or give them a call at 476-5179. You dig?
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Good morning and welcome to Old Town Cleveland here on WOOP FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.woopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553 if you're out of town. Just add 423-614-5553. Good morning, Debbie Moore. Tell me what's going on.
Well, I'd like to say good morning to all the listeners that are staying in this morning because it's raining on this October the 3rd, 2015. We have some friends here from the Prater's Mill Foundation and some historians from Whitfield County, and we'll be talking about all the things that happened just over the line down there in Whitfield County, Georgia. And, Ron, there's a lot of activity going on out here in the mall this morning.
Yes, they got the brouhaha.
Which I think,
if you drink so much, it becomes brouhaha.
But the brouhaha will be starting at 2 p.m. today and going to 6 p.m. And it's our friends. It's hosted by the Bald-Headed Bistro. And it's going to be obviously here at the Village Green Town Center. And all the proceeds will benefit our good old museum center, which we were down there Monday night, Ron. It's an outstanding crowd for Bill Talley.
Right.
Autographing of his book, which is available at the Village Bake Shop.
And also still at the museum. So
we assume
they probably 500 or 600 people show up for the book signing, which was great. I know Bill was about wore out from signing his name.
Yes.
So the name of the book
Delightful
is
Person.
How Tall is a Giant? And so if you knew Bill Talley when he lived here, you know what kind of amazing man he was. And if you don't know about him, you need to get the book. He's quite an amazing young man. He lives in Odessa, Texas now. I call him young. I think he's 71, but he wouldn't want me to tell you that, though. But he still acts like he's 14 or 15.
Another local history book that I'm sure everybody will want for their collection is the United Daughters of the Confederacy's reprint of the 1915 cookbook.
If you want to cook bear or possum, they got the recipes in there.
That's right, and it's absolutely fabulous. To test your oven, your wood oven, you light the fire, and then you stick your hand in there, and if you can stand to hold your hand in there, it's not ready to cook in yet. But if you have to withdraw your hand, that's your sign that it's time to cook. I think the good old days were kind of rough on some of those women. But anyway, those books are $20. They benefit the United Daughters of the Confederacy. I think that's the monies that they've spent to get the monument refurbished and preserved. And so we want to support them. And you can buy one of those down at our friends at Stamper's Furniture. $20 cash.
Right.
We have with us today Marvin Souder. Did I say your name right, Marvin?
Yes.
Okay, and Judy Alderman and Ellen Thompson. And I'm going to start off by talking to my friend Judy. And Judy's been on our show before, probably 3 or 4 years ago now. It's been a little while.
Well, before we get into it, we're talking about Prater Mill, but there's some big event coming up next Saturday.
And what's that?
Prater's Mill.
Yes.
The fair.
That's right.
Tell us what time.
Ron,
it
you
is.
struck me. You struck panic through me because I thought, oh my, what is he talking about? Okay, go
This
ahead.
is the 45th annual.
45. Wow.
We say we keep doing it until we get it right.
Now, you started in what year?
71.
Okay, I believe Ron and I were probably there in 72. At that time, it was still fairly small,
Very.
and I believe they had food across the road at the store, and they had what I would call hippie crafts, painted rocks, plants that little old ladies had planted to sell.
That was Granny Reed.
Tell me about Granny.
Well, she was a character, and we have a painting of the early fair, and Granny's in it. And she adopted little children to get them interested in plants, and she would make tiny little cactus plants for them,
I remember that.
and they would preserve those. So if we had food across the road, that was after 73,
Okay.
because in 73 we had the flood. We called it the Chattanooga flood.
I understand.
And when we first started the fair, we didn't have a country store because somebody lived in it. So after that flood, they decided that living in the store was not a good idea.
How high did the water get at the store?
5 feet inside the mill.
Wow. And then that store seems to be down lower than that.
It got about 3 feet inside the store. See, the road and the bridge, they
yeah.
sort of back the water up, you know. So that's the story on that. But when we started the country fair, it was held every month. And my son says it didn't take long for the shine to wear off of that, because it was too much work. And then we went to 2 a year, and then in 2003 it dawned on us that Mother Nature and the Prater's Mill gang did not mesh in the spring, so the floods just got us and we couldn't survive. And so now we just have the country fair in October, second weekend in October.
Excellent. And your family was involved early in preserving the mill.
I've been there every day since 1971.
Now, did your family own the mill? No. Okay.
No, we were from South Carolina, and we came to Dalton, Georgia, to realize the American dream. And we would ride around on Sunday afternoons I had 3 babies, by the way, at the time. The oldest one was 4. And I needed something to do. That's what Jane said.
Something to keep you busy and out of trouble.
But they were building the bridge there, and Prater's Mill was on a dirt road. And so they were going to pave Georgia Highway 2. And we walked down there, and I just thought it was magnificent. And I brought a picture of what it looked like. That's actually after. See those pictures I brought?
I think I have that on my. I'll put it up on the screen here.
You'll put it up on
I'll get to that. Go ahead there.
And I thought it was magnificent. And my husband...
Was it painted white at that time? Or was
No
it
paint.
No paint.
Doors open. The gaping holes in the roof matched the gaping holes in the floor. But I was just struck.
So in 1879, now I know you weren't there then, Judy. In 1879, there were, according to the Whitfield County history book here, 32 mills.
Yes.
And there were 30, and Whitfield County is kind of like Bradley County. We have lots of nice waterways running through here, and everyone within every few miles there was a mill. We
Yes.
have absolutely zero left.
It's interesting.
You have one.
One of the Society for the Preservation of Old Mills, he came up with a study. He said the mills were 4 miles apart. That's corn mills. And the reason was you could go to the mill and get your corn ground and get back home.
Yes.
But now Prater's Mill is a flour mill. And as Mr. Duncan says, corn mills were a few miles apart. Flour mills were many miles apart.
Okay, for those of us who aren't up on that, how do you
Yeah,
tell the
there's no
difference
picture.
between a corn mill and a flour mill?
Well, look how big that mill, Prater's Mill, is.
There were several stories high, or a few
Uh-huh.
stories high.
Mhm. And a corn mill could be as big as your car.
Okay.
You know, you could grind corn with just one set of stones. Prater's Mill originally had two big sets of stones. And so you had to have an entrepreneur who had enough money to buy those stones. And so this was in 1855, and the entrepreneur was John Pittner from Cohutta. Pittner Creek is named for him.
And so how did he get the name Prater's Mill?
His son-in-law was Ben Prater,
Okay, there you go.
and so that's how the name.
So let me back up here. Why is the flour mill taller? Is it the stuff has to go through two different sets of wheels?
What you're actually looking at is a totally complete system. You can walk in the mill, the corn goes into a hopper, you can take 8 steps and get a sack of flour.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not touched by human hands, see.
Huh.
So in its day, Prater's Mill was really something. And I talked to the engineers. I said, what would it compare to today? They said probably a factory that was run on sun power,
Okay.
solar power.
Because all the power was generated by Cohola Creek.
Uh-huh.
Now, Cohola Creek starts here in Bradley County.
It does. I think it's over near the county line, over to the right.
It goes through Spring Place, isn't that Cohola Creek?
Yes. So it's all the way over, I believe, over, and somebody will call us and tell us off of Bates Pike
Yeah, it's
is the
back
headwaters
where
for the Cohola.
Mr. Steele's farm, probably back in there.
Or across
somewhere,
the road, yeah.
Somewhere in that area is where Cohola, I believe, the headwaters
Somebody
will
call
begin.
us and let us know. Somebody will know for sure.
I would love to see the headwaters because
Mm-hmm.
they had fish traps all along that creek.
Sure.
Sure.
And we'd like to know is any of it left? It's at Prater's Mill, that was fish trap shoals during the Indian days,
Mm-hmm.
but there are no stones or anything left because we have a dam.
You're talking about a weir? Is that what it's called, Ron? A
Yeah, it
fishing
could be.
weir? We have those
The creek
up in-
is not very big anymore, so I don't know how. I don't know where it turns into. It's a lot bigger down in Georgia than it is back towards out like on
Mm-hmm.
Spring Place Road. There's a little bridge near where you used to live growing up, Deb. It goes through that area. It did get over. It
I mean,
flooded quite often.
It backs up in the fields, but it goes all the way down.
Yeah.
I've lived on Cohola Creek all my life.
Yeah, back, it goes over in Patterson Road back through that way and cuts around where the rock quarry back through that way. And
Now, do you guys know if the water from Red Clay, the Mill Creek, does it run into Cohola?
I think it does.
I think it does,
We've been
too.
talking to them about that.
I think it does too.
so now is it the Cohola Creek watershed in there too? It's
Well, it's considered Conasauga River.
okay.
It's the largest tributary in Whitfield County
Right.
of the Conasauga River. And there's a lot of interest, in the Conasauga.
Right,
Oh yes, we are quite familiar with Conasauga. Ron, that's where Ron's family,
right.
um,
From Tingy.
Tingy,
Tingy, Georgia.
Tingy, Georgia.
Oh, there's a big, I don't know what you call it. There's going to be an hoop-de-doo, he said.
and Tinga.
Yeah, let him tell.
Oh,
what's
Marvin,
going
tell us
on in
about the
Tingy?
hoopy doo.
I think you're talking about the port that's coming in there, yeah.
Oh,
And most people
oh,
feel,
the port. I've heard a little bit about that. Talk right into your microphone.
well, I'm not a real authority on that, but I know there are some people that are opposed to it, but many folks are in favor of it for bringing the industry to Murray County.
Okay, where's the port going to be?
It's in close to his place there in Crandall,
Tinga.
really, actually Crandall. Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are opposed feel that maybe it's going to impact the
Environment.
mountain and the environment and the streams and that sort of thing. So that's still to be worked out.
That's what I've heard on Facebook is the people that are opposed to it. But there's always two
We just
sides.
can't mess up the gin slough or jumping off the bridge at Easley Ford over there. Just
That's
can't
right.
do that now.
Right.
I
That's
never
really-
jumped off the bridge at Easley
No,
Ford. I just
I've
have to
seen
admit.
lots of crazy people do that,
Yeah.
though. I sure have. Well, that's really interesting. Do we know when that might be? I mean, is something that's going to happen fairly soon, Marvin, you think?
Well, it was just announced a few months ago, and it's on the drawing board, I think, in the very near future.
Ron's family owned property right there in Tinga. Matter of fact, I think there's an old family legend, and I've never really proved it, that one part of the house was in Polk County, one part was in Murray County, and which end of the house you was born on is where you put down which state you was born in, but that could just be a legend. But his family, built a hotel there, as the railroad came through, and had the Tinga Hotel for many years. Matter of fact, I think it only burned down in the 1970s. And here in the last few months, some friends of ours have opened up Wilson's store, and it's now an antique shop. Yesteryears or something like that. And we went down, and they have a very, very nice selection of stuff. So you guys need to go down and see them.
Okay. The fair is next Saturday, the
Yes.
10th, and Saturday and Sunday, right?
Right.
The 10th and 11th. It starts. I'm trying to read here and get
From 9 to 6 on Saturday and 9 to 5 on Sunday.
$7 to get in.
$7 for adults. Children 12 and under are free.
Right. Now, if you don't know where Prater's Mill is, you're not from here originally. So go down Dalton Pike, go into Georgia, and you will.
It's called Cleveland Highway when you start home on it.
Yeah. Come to the first traffic light and take a left.
That's right.
And the first traffic light in Georgia, that's Barnell.
Or
You
Barnell.
got to say it right, Barnell.
Varnell,
I'm from the South here, I know that. And of course, Tinga's not Tinga, it's Tingy.
if you
You
live
know,
there.
Conasagi and Tingy. Yeah, I looked at those. But
Oh my,
Varnell,
they're gonna have poke salad for sale,
All
homemade
right.
ice cream, fried pies, chicken and dumplings, cornbread, and pinto beans.
yeah, go down there hungry. There's going to be all kind of food selections. There are tons of crafts, and if nothing else, just go see the old mill and walk through it. And there's a what is it that your dad?
My grandpa, the gin, the cotton gin.
The cotton gin. I couldn't
Judy,
think of
do you remember when the cotton gin was moved there?
Yes, we've got pictures and everything.
Oh, I'd love to see those. Now, did my grandpa help with that?
Yes.
Yeah, tell
Yes.
us about that.
And he came down and he played
Tom Clayton.
the saw during the fair.
Oh, did he?
Yes. That we moved the equipment without having money to do the building.
Okay.
So the equipment sat at Prater's Mill for several years. It was in the 80s when we moved it.
He died in 83, I believe.
So he and Mr. Sugar helped them to tell them where to place the equipment and everything. And I said, Mr. Sugar, how in the world did you all build this mill in like 1915?
And he was in Cohutta, correct?
Yes, in Cohutta. Without all of these modern day cranes and everything. And he said they had better men back then.
Amen.
Hey,
Oh, that's true.
that amazing what they could do with pulleys and mules. A good team
Exactly.
of mules.
Exactly. And how smart the people were to be able to figure that out and how to work together to make that happen.
Right.
It's just amazing. And they talked about, they had a man who worked for their cotton gin that could carry a bale of cotton on his back. And I don't remember his name. I know that he was a black man. And if anybody does know, I would love to know that man's name.
Wow. And I'm just thinking my last two uncles that could have told you that name
See?
are gone now.
Yeah.
But-
And you know, the other thing I think we mentioned earlier is that there is no operating mills in the area here. Nothing in Bradley County or McMinn or Polk. There is no mill still standing or operating. So if your children have never seen what a mill does or how it works, this is a great place to go. And it's just nearby. A great event also.
The grounds are
We-
always open down there that you can walk around and look and
Yeah.
stuff. But if you want to see the mill in operation, you have to go next weekend. Along with that, I love the graffiti genealogy that's there. There have been people for generations that have signed their names on the walls. And you can go there, and I know that, Greenfields are my family, and I saw some Greenfields scribbled on there before, which meant a lot to me. And then the picture of all the men standing out in front of the mill, I believe some of those gentlemen are Greenfields too, and they lived in Cohutta, and so it would make good sense for them to have been there. Very interesting place.
Music, food, crafts,
Clogging.
and, everything that you'd want in a fair. $7 is really cheap.
That's what we think.
Parking, you got a parking. You can walk, or they have shuttles.
Free shuttles.
I know I took the shuttle in last time. It's so much better than walking when it was it was 100 degrees, I think, last time I came down there in October. But yeah, that's so make sure you go down there. And great history there also. And I know in a few minutes we'll be talking about some of the great history that not only about the mill, but we'll be talking about some of the Cherokee Indians that lived on the other side of the line there. And of course, as we well know, that they all got ran up here to Bradley County eventually. So Martin, you want to talk about a little bit about that real quick?
Oh, I want to talk about that.
Just briefly, while we're talking about the mills, in Whitfield, Murray County, there are 3 mill creeks, and every one of them is named for a Cherokee grist mill that existed on each creek.
And what 3 are they?
Well, in Murray County, it's the Vans, just called Mill Creek, but it was Van's Mill.
Okay.
Joseph Van. And then in Whitfield County, you had the McCoys. They were Cherokees here at Red Clay, the little creek that runs down into Coahulla. And then the Mill Creek out of Dalton, on some of the older maps, they call it Hicks Mill Creek, but now they just call it Mill Creek. But that was named for the Cherokee chief Charles Renatus Hicks, who had a mill on the Mill Creek there. Very interesting.
Chief Hicks, there's quite a bit written about him.
Moravian Mission Diaries, of course, he was converted. He was a Christian. He accepted Christ and was baptized and was working to, get all the Cherokees converted. And he was a good man, done a lot of good things for people, and attended the Moravian Mission regularly. Some of the diaries talk about they had a freshet, and I didn't know what a freshet was, but it was a spring rain. And the creeks would get up out of the banks, and he would write that the chief couldn't come to service today because he couldn't cross the creek.
Now, I know that I think during removal time, wasn't he terribly old, or right before the removal? When did he die?
Yeah, he died in 1835, I believe.
Yes. See, right as all of that was coming to a head, and they would always refer to him the old Chief Hicks, and it would there's indications in diaries and stuff where he was lying somewhere, and people would come in and talk with him, and so that obviously made me feel like he was terribly old at that time.
He had a lame leg. He had problems getting around, and there would be times he couldn't get up and go, and he would write about that, or the missionaries would write that in their diaries too. But when he did pass away, they had him laid out dressed in white in a big oak coffin there at the mission, and I think it was 3 days that they had him out, and people would come in and pass by his coffin. And today he's buried in the little Moravian Mission Cemetery there at Spring Place.
Yeah, I think Ron and I ran into that little cemetery one day, and I had to get out and look, and it was 110 degrees, and there were ants and bees, but I endured it to see where somebody was buried.
You noticed she had to get out. I kept the car running, and
Ron
the air conditioner
keeps
running for her.
I call it the getaway car. Ron keeps the getaway car ready to go, and he sits, and I often take pictures of him, the cemetery between me and him, and he's sitting in his car. Ron, let's stop for just a moment.
Okay.
Go ahead. What were you going to do?
I was going to say that you're listening to Old Town Cleveland on Whoop FM 99.9, or you go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. In just a moment, we're going to answer the phone. Open up the phones. You can call us at 614-5553. We're talking about Freighter Mill and some of the Cherokee Indians down in North Georgia. We got Judy Alderman, Marvin Souder, and Ellen Thompson. And we'll also be talking about the fair coming up next Saturday. And to tell you some of the shows coming up here on Old Town Cleveland, next week we have the Supreme Court Justice of the Cherokee Indians. The Cherokee Nation will be here, Troy Wayne Poteet. He's also the executive director of the National Trail of Tears, and he portrays Sam Houston a lot of times, so we'll hear a lot about Sam Houston, who stayed on Hiawassee Island. We got Gerald Hodges coming in to talk about Tennessee Overhills and some of the Cherokee Indians that have come through McMinn County and
He,
Athens
by the
there.
way, is an expert on the Georgia 39th,
Yeah,
which
so-
is I have family members that fought in that, so Gerald and I'll have a great time with that.
So, and on the 24th of October, I'll just come in and turn on the microphone, I turn on the system and leave, because Debbie and Laura Span,
Brian Spann.
Brian Spann will be here talking about graveyards. And between those two, you just, all you have to do is ask somebody, ask the name, and they'll tell you exactly where they're buried here in Bradley County. It's amazing. And then on the
We're the
30
Graveyard Divas.
and then on Halloween morning, we're going to be talking about local ghosts and haints.
Thanks.
So
We have a great time here on our show. They're looking at us
all right,
like,
Deb, you ready for me to open the phone up? You have one other thing to say.
I wanted to say,
All right.
tell folks about the symposium we just got back from.
Okay. We went to a Cherokee Archaeological Symposium. That's just tough enough to say by itself, but we were
Don't
in
try spelling it.
we were in Cherokee, North Carolina, and we listened for 2 days. Archaeologists from all over the country come in and talked about the archaeology of the Cherokee Nation and the Eastern Band. And one of the local ones they did here was Hiwassee Island, which is up here on the Hiwassee River.
Where the Hiwassee and the Tennessee meet
right.
at Bliss Ferry.
And it was very interesting. That guy's coming in probably in November. He'll be back in town in the Bradley County areas, and probably going to come and do our show and tell us about the amazing things that's going to happen on Hiwassee Island. They're trying to make it a National Register of Historical Places, thanks to TVA's involvement in this and TWRA. So,
But I'm thinking, guys, that they are, those archaeologists, the scientists there are really interested in sites where villages and things are. And if you guys have something, we've got contact information. And they do the ground penetrating radar now, so they don't dig up acres and acres of land. They look for the spots, and then they just do shovel digs and stuff. And I mean, some fabulous stuff that
they can dig up, the entire
Ron?
village, but a lot of times they're just
So, what percentage of the conversation was over your head?
99.9%.
But how was the food?
The food was excellent at the symposium, though. But we're going to open up the phones here. You can call us at 614-5553 if you got a question about Prater Mill, how to get there, about the fair, or about the mill itself, or about Rattling Gourd or Wolf Stand, or any, some. If you Cherokee enthusiasts are out there, give us a call.
Good deal. I'm going to look for somebody's name while you talk.
If you see this little white light flash up here, it means someone's calling us. So just be ready. Yeah. And if I don't see it, you point at it for me, okay? Because I turn around this way. On the screen there, this is a picture of a group of men. I think they're all men there at 1905 in Prater Mill. Is that right?
That's the one I think has some of the green fields.
You can't shake your head up and down. This is radio.
That's right. I'm supposed to talk.
Yes.
What I love about this picture, you see the people in overalls.
Mhm.
Well, look to the right, and you'll see a man in a suit. They say that he was a salesman who had come to the store, and they told him, they said, "Well, come and get in the picture." So that's why somebody's in.
I love it. I wanted to say the name I was looking for was Kathy Lynn Carroll Josenhans. I can't say her last name. Kathy is from Cleveland, and she's going to be one of your craftsmen next week.
Wonderful.
And for all of her friends on Facebook, she's the one that does the wonderful pine needle basket weavings, the Cherokee designs, and does the beautiful gourds. Oh my goodness. And she has been just advertising, saying, well, if you want to buy one of these, we'll be at Prater's Mill. But she does beautiful, good Native American work.
Also, I'm going to tell you a little later on in the program, if you'd like to win a couple of tickets to the Prater Mill, we're going to give away some here. So keep listening. Not now, not yet, but we will say now, and then you go. Okay. All right. So 1972. Who owned the mill in 1972 when it was sitting there about to fall down?
Dalton Asphalt Company owned it.
Oh,
It had
how in the world did you guys save it?
Well, we were just really dumb.
That
we-
works sometimes.
We said, somebody needs to do something about this place, and nobody did. And so we went and we asked Jim Boring about, could we try to do something for it? And he gave us a chance. And we started Mother's Day weekend in 1971, and by December, Mr. Kyle, who had been the miller at Prater's Mill and who lived across the street from me, he and my husband kept fooling with the turbine. They call it frozen up, it was rusted up.
Mm-hmm.
And they had borrowed a big Stilson wrench, and that's about as long as a person is. And they put their feet on the side of the forebay, and they just kept rocking back and forth, and they broke it loose. And we were worried about them. Mrs. Kyle was calling me, and she said, they're not home yet, and it's past supper time. And finally they came in, and they had gotten the mill to run. But I did want to tell you there is another mill that we run during the fair as well. And it's a Meadows mill. And it was made in North Carolina. And the interesting thing about that mill is if you had one of those mills, you were exempt from military duty. That was both in the World War I and World War II. And I called and talked to the owner of the mill just this week. My question was this: did you have to actually turn it on, or did you just have to own it? Because see what happened, it became a bone of contention between the wealthy and the poor. And he said, you had to prove that you had bought one. You didn't have to prove that you had owned it, run it. He said, but it was mostly farmers who bought them, and they would run it, on their farm for themselves, and then they could do it for others. And it's a small mill that you could run with a tractor belt or something like that. But it'll be running too.
And where is it located?
It's if you face the mill, it's in the back left inside the mill. It is operated on electricity. It could be water powered, but we needed a way to grind that didn't depend on whether the water was too high or too low. So that's why it was donated to us. So
now how often does the mill actually run? Just this one week? Or?
Well, we do it for special events and tours. Our goal is to have it open all the time, and we're working toward that.
So now, is there a Prater Mill corn mill that you can buy?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There is.
On that occasion.
Yes,
Usually.
and at
Occasionally.
the butcher market other times of the year.
Okay. So I didn't know if you ground all the time when if the orders go good. Do you have to go turn it on and grind a little bit?
We can do that.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So who's your miller? Who knows how to operate that thing?
Well, Melanie Chapman knows how to operate the mill. She grew up across the street from me, and she's been to every fair just like I've been to every fair. But she won't be operating the mill during the fair unless they need her. Roger Rollins knows how to run it. Mike Manley knows how to run it. Melanie's husband, Ricky Chapman, knows how to run it. So there'll be at least 3 millers.
Ron, do you remember the mill we went to see over in, I guess, Middle Tennessee?
I remember it.
Oh my gosh, it was gorgeous. And it was like that. It's running all the time now, too.
The wheel itself was about 3 stories. Huge. And they ran it through a trace. They dammed the water back up, water.
It
then
was
run
4
through a
stories
trace.
high, I believe.
Yeah,
Oh, gosh,
it
what was
was-
the name of that place?
It's over near, right outside of Lynchburg, back this side of Lynchburg.
And we went on a Sunday afternoon, and they were running it.
Yeah, it
then.
runs all the time.
Are you talking about Falls Mill?
Yes, that's
You
it.
sure are.
Thank
It's
you. This
beautiful.
This
It
is
is.
the game we play all the time. We can come up with all the details, but we can't come up with the name.
I
Right.
understand. I understand.
And that was, I'm sure you've been there just to see the operation and stuff.
He is our patron saint, John. I love it. He is an engineer.
Yes.
He taught college in Huntsville, And he and his wife are just passionate about that mill, and they do a lot with the Society for the Preservation of Old Mills, trying to save mills across the country.
And it's open almost every day, I believe.
I think it's closed on Wednesday.
But and then Ron and I were the curious historic type, and he took a great deal of time to show us things behind the scenes and explain things to us, and we just had a wonderful time, and we were most impressed. And if anybody's interested in that, they even have places to stay there. I think little cabins or something. Let's get this call.
Go ahead, caller. You live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, good morning. This is RD.
Hey, RD.
Hey, RD, what's up, buddy?
Oh, this is the kind of show I like. I love old stuff like this. I'm gonna try to get.
Have you been to Prater's Mill?
No,
Oh, well, you just get your bags packed and get ready to go, because you are going to love it.
I am. I'm gonna. Actually, I told you, I got my mom and dad down here. I'm gonna try to get them down there.
They will love it too.
Yeah, I'm hoping the weather will.
And they are very accommodating with the little shuttle rides.
Oh, that'd be great.
And so you can park out at the back of the field, but the shuttle's going to be really close.
Cool. Okay, very good. But I do have a question about this. This kind of thing I love. Where do you get, or are you still using the original millstones? I mean, how does it, is it still a millstone type of operation, or?
Yes, we grind with millstones, both in the Munson Mill, which is the original mill at Prater's Mill, and the Meadows Mill, which is the one that was donated to us.
I'll be darned. So,
Where did those stones come from, Judy?
There were quarries in the United States. For ours is called a conglomerate mill, stone. It's made up of different stones. It's not one kind, because as you wear down the stone, you want the different hardnesses to make it rough, so it would cut the grain.
right.
But we also have one that Marvin donated to us, and it is from France, and it was the highest, most expensive type of stone. It's called a French burr stone, and it came in little square pieces like a pizza pie, and you would have to put a band around it to hold it together.
Well, so there's still companies that make millstones? That's
There are.
really. Well, I would have never thought. I thought
They're probably cheap too, aren't they?
Oh, yeah,
shoot.
right.
you could go to Walmart and buy a millstone.
I have wanted one of those for a long time for my yard, and I do not have one yet.
Wow. Yeah, well, I know you find them used. Now you're talking several thousands of dollars. You know.
Oh, yes.
Well, that's just fascinating. I'm going to do my best to get Mom and Dad motivated and get down there. Now, when is this date-wise?
It's October the 10th and 11th, 9 to 6 on Saturday and 9 till 5 on Sunday.
Is that the same time as the tractor show or something next weekend, too?
I have no idea. Maybe at Charleston.
Charleston, yeah. Okay, well, I'll leave it up to Mom and Dad, but I'd really like to get them down there. I'm trying to get them involved and get them around, seeing some of the local stuff, and everything. But I think Pop would love one or the other. So
No, it is really
They
fascinating.
usually have a bunch of old tractors down there too.
We do. We have tractors and cars and
okay, well, I think you just made our minds up.
Well, I always have one with those hit and miss motors back down there, and you can hear that thing
That's cool.
thumping through all day long.
That's cool. During the blizzard of '93, my neighbor over here used to have a 1934 John Deere tractor. He called me up and said, "You think we can get this thing started and make it to the store?"
RD, I'm looking here on my phone, and the Antique Tractor Show is next Saturday and Sunday at Charleston Park. So, at the park in Charleston. So you need to go one day there and one day to Prater's Mill.
We're going to try.
All righty.
All right. Let's
Thanks,
go.
RD. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You can call us here at 614-5553. I got a question. Is Georgia going to beat Alabama today?
Of course.
Okay,
Of
good
course.
answer. Good answer.
Which reminds me, the Brouhaha out here has a big screen set up that at 3 o'clock this afternoon they will be showing the football game.
The Georgia-Alabama game.
I believe
'cause
so.
Tennessee plays at 7.
Okay.
Or Tennessee's going to have a game at 7. I don't know if they'll play yet or not. We tell us a little bit about the history down in that area.
Ellen. Now, Ellen likes graveyards and she likes schools, I understand.
Well, I kind of had to like school because I spent 40 years in education after I was in school myself.
Now,
So,
that's where I'm at this moment. So, where did you teach?
Oh, at a lot of different Whitfield County schools, because
Okay.
I've done a lot of different jobs.
Yes, me too.
Taught language arts, taught gifted. My gifted students actually recorded the Whitfield County cemeteries in the late 70s.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Historical Society published the book some years
Excellent.
ago.
Mhm.
But I've done curriculum too, and then I was principal at Varnell for 15 years. But
Wow.
my hobby has always been local history, I guess, because my dad was a real storyteller and kind of made it come alive. He would walk me through the trenches at Rocky Face and talk about the war like it happened last week, and I had just missed it. So that kind of gets you interested.
Yes, it sure
So-
does. Do any of you know how the Tunnel Hill reenactment went this year? Ron and I didn't make it down. Marvin, were you there?
Oh yes, both days.
And how did it go? Ron and I went a couple of years ago, and we absolutely loved it.
We had
Loved
a pretty good turnout. The attendance was down just a little from what we were used to, but there's a lot of contributing factors you could give that to. But we had a good battle both days. You know, the Confederates won on Saturday and the Yankees won on Sunday. That's the scenario that we always have. But it was real good, and everyone that came enjoyed it. I heard nothing negative, about anything that took place there.
I always do. I teach at Black Fox Elementary, and I always go in and talk to the fourth graders about Native American history in this area, and I always talk to the fifth grade about the Civil War, because that's what's in their curriculum. And I use the pictures from Tunnel Hill to show them the little drummers. A boy just your age would have been the drummer for this, this unit, and the kids just love the pictures, And it's amazing to me how the ground shakes when those cannons fire. And in many diaries in Polk County, Tennessee, folks mentioned that they could hear the cannon fire from Chickamauga. And I always thought that was, no, surely not. But after hearing those cannons down there, I understand why they could hear them now. But pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, what's the most interesting thing about history in Whitfield County that Tennessee folks don't know?
Oh my goodness. The most interesting
Yeah.
thing?
I mean, what?
Or what's it?
Well, one interesting thing is that our historical society owns 8 historic properties in the 2 counties, and Mark McDonald with the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation told us a few years ago. Now keep in mind, he's not only interested in that in Georgia, but he travels the whole United States. He said that he didn't know of an entity anywhere that owned 8 historic properties altogether.
Most of them don't even own one.
That's true.
I mean,
Well, and you do know why we're the Whitfield Murray Historical Society,
Explain
right?
that to our listeners. I
Well,
know.
actually, we started out as the Murray Whitfield Historical Society. Before 1852, we were all Murray County. It was only after that they used the Conasauga River as the dividing point
Right.
between the 2 counties. But we started as a historical society in 1952 with one goal, and that was to preserve the Van House at Spring Place.
Oh, what
Right.
a wonderful save.
And it was preserved and later given to the state of Georgia. We haven't given any of the rest of our properties to the state of Georgia, though. We've sort of collected them over the years. Sometimes they've been donated to us. Sometimes we've purchased them. And our newest acquisition is the Huff House.
Tell us about that.
Well, Marvin needs to tell you about the
All
Huff
right, Marvin,
House.
tell me about the Huff House. Is it downtown? Where is that?
It's just a half a block from the City Hall in Dalton on Selvage Street. And Ken and Jim Boring, who were responsible for preserving Prater's Mill or making it available for preservation, they owned this property as their offices.
Oh.
And both of them passed away. And the Miss Dottie Boring, who was Ken's wife, had possession of the house, and she approached the Historical Society to see if we might be interested in accepting this house as a gift. And of course, the home itself is a very historic home. It has a lot of rich history. It was built in 1855, and when it was built, it actually faced the railroads, facing east.
Mm-hmm.
And through a series of ownerships, and Miss Liddy Huff owned the house She got it in 1887, purchased it, and recorded the deeds in 1893. But in 1904, Selvage Street was developing into one of the major thoroughfares in Dalton, and so she had the house turned around, had it jacked up and put on a turnstile type thing, and with mule power, it took them about 2 weeks. She turned the house from east, facing the railroad, turned it around and faced west, facing Selvage Street. And so that way, you know, she sort of come up in society, and she had 3 daughters that were educated in the Dalton Public Schools and the Dalton Female College. And all 3 of these daughters taught in the Dalton Public Schools at one time or another. And the last surviving daughter of the Huff family, Miss Margie, was principal of City Park School. So everybody over 50 knows Miss Margie, and that's the namesake of the house is the Huff House. But it has a rich Civil War history. General Joseph E. Johnston, who was in charge of the Army of Tennessee, had his headquarters in the house for about 4.5, 5 months. And so we are, right now, we're in a renovation process of getting this house presentable to the public. It was, but we had some structural problems, and we want to get the floors
Sometimes you just
redone.
have to tear everything up to fix it.
That's
right?
basically what's happening.
So what will happen to it once it's preserved?
The house itself will be open to the public. It was mentioned, somebody said the other day, there's no place to go in Dalton where you can have a wedding or a reception or something of this nature. And so the house will be open to the public for all sorts of events. And the backyard will be fixed up where we can have outside. We have a Huff-a-Baloo. We had first one last year and raised a lot of money for the house.
Good.
And we'll have another one this year. Mary Harden's in charge of that, and she's working right now to get all that ready for the spring. So,
Well, let me say thank you to you guys, and I'm sure an army of other folks that stay enthusiastic about this, but this just doesn't happen.
What are the
It just takes
properties you
hard
own?
work.
Well, in Murray County, we own the Wright Hotel, 1909 structure. We own the Chatsworth Depot. We
Good stuff
own.
going on there.
We own they've been having music festivals this summer.
Right.
We own the old Spring Place Methodist Church, 1875. All right, y'all, help me if I miss something. In Whitfield, we own the Dugout Battle Park and the Huff House that Marvin mentioned. We own the Blunt House, which is pre-Civil War. We own the Hamilton House, which is pre-Civil War. And we own the Crown Gardens and Archives. It's our headquarters and our office of the Historical Society. It was the original office of the Crown Cotton Mill.
Ron and I did a presentation down there about Caney Creek
Sure did. Yeah.
Yes, you did.
when we did that documentary. It was just a real nice facility. And I had seen it over the years from the 1980s to now. It evolved into a very useful place. Can someone tell us where the archives is located in case someone wants to come see it?
Yes. It's at 715 Chattanooga Avenue. It's not far off the bypass in Dalton. Easy to find, and it's on the same property as the Hamilton House, which is just next door. I should mention that the Blunt House is open every Friday, and it's on Thornton Avenue. Its volunteers have it open every Friday afternoon. And our other properties are open for special events, but they can also be opened by request if groups wanted to tour any of our facilities. You would only have to call our main number, 706-278-0217, and arrange some sort of special showing.
Excellent. And I think, have you had weddings and things at the Crown Archives?
Yes,
Because
in
it
the
looks-
past we have. We've we had a wedding reception at the Hamilton House within the past year.
Now, right next door to the Crown Archives, did part of the building open up as apartments or something?
It did.
It did. Are people still living there?
They do. Yes.
I thought that was a really good way to use the old office building.
Adaptive reuse. Is
There you
what
go.
You call that term in historic preservation.
Now, is that a private enterprise there?
It is.
That's okay. It just fits in very nicely there with your little
Well, we
gardens
get
and things.
excited every time something like that happens. A young man in the community recently bought one of the houses in the Mill Village area to which we're adjacent, and modernized it, fixed it up. I mean, it still looks like a mill house, but it's been modernized, and he put it on the market. Well, we were excited about that because we'd like to see a revitalization of that whole neighborhood.
Well, I'll tell you where you can see one right here in Bradley County. We have our good friends down at Conley Electric Company is in our old Coca-Cola bottling company, not too far from here. And he has purchased 1 by 1 or 2 by 2 all the little mill houses around him and have,
For Hardwick Close.
yes, the old mill, probably 100-year-old houses. And he has refurbished them and has folks living in them. And the community's getting, the community just looks so much
And he's
nicer.
starting to go on down the street now and starting to buy some of the older houses from that area of town, and doing those too. So he's
And
he's doing this himself.
They have vinyl siding on them, and some preservationists, may turn their nose up at that. But to me, it preserves the house, and they look right. They look correct. And so I've been real excited about that. If you folks want to see those, just go down to Conley Electric and turn in there next to his driveway, and you'll get to circle probably 8 houses there, Ron.
8 or 10.
And then there's some across the street, and it's really a good thing for that neighborhood.
I've got a really important question before we go on, though. This is something I've been wanting to know there about Whitfield County for a long time. Where's Wally's Fish Fry and Burger Place? You know where I'm talking about?
Do they mean
Willie's?
Willie's or what?
next to where the green spot was? Isn't that right?
They got this,
We don't know. We keep
I've seen their
seeing-
website, and they got these ungodly
Oh, they are.
hamburgers.
They are.
Yes.
But
What,
they're
is it called
huge.
Willie's?
It is.
Willie's
Yeah, it's on
Fish
Emory
Fry.
Street. You turn onto Emory east off Thornton Avenue, and it's just past where the old Green Spot Superette was.
So
And they do have huge hamburgers.
Is it good? It
Yes,
looks good.
yes.
Okay. Well,
Go hungry.
I've never had that problem in my life. Never. On the worst day. Hey, folks, you listen to Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com and get all these names right here. We're talking about Prater Mill, and we're talking about Whitfield County and Murray County. We've got Judy Alderman, I can't say Marvin this morning, Marvin Souder and Ellen Thompson. And Prater Mill Fair is next Saturday from on the 10th and 11th from 9 to 6 on Saturday, 9 to 5 on Sunday. Music, food, and all kind of other excitement. Go ahead,
get
call
this
you
going.
live on Old Town Cleveland.
Okay, Ron, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm behind myself this Saturday.
Oh, I don't believe that.
Oh, you don't?
Oh,
Well, anyway, good morning to Debbie.
Good morning, darling. What's going on?
I wanted to tell you, the other week, whenever we were talking about the house on Ocoee Street, the Juanita Bradford that owned it,
yes.
Who owned it?
Juanita Bradford.
Okay. Go ahead.
it's Eddie Cartwright's sister.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I learned that one of the other brothers is still living, and he is 96-year-old, and he's in the nursing home, but I don't know which one. And also, the restaurant was definitely there. I was right, and I found all that because I ate there, and I knew that the building was there, but I learned that they have torn the building down.
Okay.
It's no longer there, and Juanita's deceased, and I worked with her. I don't know what happened to her first husband, but he was deceased, and she remarried a guy, and I worked with him. So he was a very nice person, too. So I know the whole family. I know Eddie and all of them.
Well, you know some fine folks then.
Yeah, they are. Oh, yeah, they were just as sweet as they could be.
Even Eddie.
I lived next door to their mother.
Yeah.
And I'd bake a cake, and I'd holler, Anna, come on over. And here she did.
We don't have neighbors like that anymore.
No, we don't. I've got neighbor. She and I talk all, but I got another lady behind me. They're from New York. Every now and then I get to talk with Laura, but very seldom. But now used to, I had a lot of neighbors. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you that, and I told you to call me, and I'd tell you something, but I don't want to tell you over that.
Okay.
Well, we're going to. I just want to ask you, have you drank all that bottle of Jack I brought you?
Yeah.
Okay.
My darling, thank you.
You know what I did?
What'd you do?
I turned that bottle upside down in a glass till I got the last drop.
She got you that time, Ron. Thank you, darling. Have a good
All
week.
right.
You do the same. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
She always calls in and requests just a swinging. Oh, my goodness. It's hard to get Ron speechless.
She got me that time.
I wanted to tell you, too, that we're talking about how things are being refurbished and stuff. Well, our old Hardwick Mills, which is the oldest mill still in operation in America, well, the mills moved to a new location several years ago, but the old mill building is still downtown.
This is not a different type meal now.
Oh yeah, it's a clothing mill. But one end is a now dance studio. You can rent parts for parties, and it's used quite often. And then now down in one of the other buildings, our artists in town are moving into that building. So we're seeing some revitalization there. Let's get this call.
The old Hardwick Clothes building. Yes. Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron. This is Jerry Frazier. I just wanted to
Hey, Jerry.
welcome Dr. Thompson to Bradley County. She was certainly hospitable to many Bradley Counties through her years, and a great principal at Varnell, and it was just good to hear her voice. I knew she'd retired, but I didn't know what all she was into.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm surprised.
And one thing also, Ron and Debbie, when I went to Dalton after I retired here and spent my 10 years, I spent most of it at the old Fort Hill School, which is quite a historical location in Dalton. And we talk about all the schools that we've closed around here, and that's an interesting building. It's over 100 years old and still operating today, and I found that quite interesting.
Jerry, would you take just a moment to tell everybody how the Templeton Hill School reunion went last week?
It was awesome, Debbie. We had 150 names, but we had between 250 and 300 people show up. I actually spent a lot of time talking to a lady who went to school with my mom. So it was a fascinating day, and everybody seemed to have a really great time. The weather was perfect, and it was a great day.
It was, and thank you to Don Guerin and all the folks that helped him get
Ron
that.
Rogers.
A lot of people worked real hard on that reunion, and like you say, the morning the weather didn't start out too nice, but by the time it got time to kick in, it was a really pretty day, and I think it was a great idea.
It was. Enjoying the program.
Thank you, Jerry.
I had to tell Dr. Thompson hello.
All righty. Well, thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Jerry's a longtime educator here in Bradley County.
Former superintendent of schools.
And his wife recently retired from teaching, and so that's...
And Jerry plays golf every day, or at least he goes to the golf course. I don't know if he plays golf or not, but he does go to the golf course about every day. He has a biscuit with me about every morning, though, before he goes to play golf, and I sit there after he leaves, though, because I don't play golf. Even when I play golf, I don't play golf.
Just want to remind everybody that the Museum Center at 5 Points presents the Brew Ha Ha, and it's going to be today from 2 to 6 p.m. down here at the Village Greentown Center. It's hosted by the Bald-Headed Bistro. I do not know how much the tickets are, but I know that they're going to have tickets for sale here if you haven't already purchased your tickets, and all those proceeds go to keep our nice museum center open. So let's get down there and
basically that is everybody who brews their own beer, and their companies and individuals will come here, and you buy the ticket and you get a little glass, and you go by and they'll fill the glass up for you, and then you can
looks
sit
like
down.
there's quite a bit.
And after you go through all the things, you can sit down on the bench and recover right out here
and watch the football
the
game.
Georgia-Alabama game.
We went one year, and it was a lot of fun. I thought it was a lot
great
of fun.
music and great entertainment. So it's here inside, so we don't have to worry about the weather. I think the museum is doing something with this program. I don't know exactly what
Well,
it is.
they're going to benefit from it.
Right. Okay.
And they used to have it at the museum center, and they had to rely on the weather.
Right.
And this seems like to me a great plan.
Right. So,
And they can have it in October and not worry about if the sun's going to shine or if it's going to be 100 degrees or if it's going to be freezing.
so if you are a beer connoisseur, this would be a place to be today. And you'll find some really, really good beers and some maybe not as good. So what you do, you circle around and taste some of
I
all
always
of it.
like to talk
and then
to
circle back around and drink the ones you really like.
I like to talk to the folks that are, to explain to me how all that happens. Marvin, next week at the fair, what kind of foods can people look for? Or who can answer that question? What kind of
Judy would be best to
Judy?
answer that, I think.
Oh Lord, don't get me started on the food.
I always like.
I'm
it's
making a list.
Everybody, the old timers, we call them. They have their routes, so we know where they're going to go.
I know my favorite.
What?
Chicken and dumplings.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's the Church of God of the Union Assembly from Cleveland.
Oh,
And they have greens, and all this is cooked on a wood
Cornbread.
stove. I should say wood burning stove.
Mhm.
The stove is not wood.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, wood burning stove. Poke salad in the country store is a plate lunch. Everything is homemade. You can see them peeling potatoes back on the back. It's just way cool.
I just love to go in there,
It's wonderful. A homemade,
and it smells like Grandma's house.
doesn't it?
Yeah. Let's get this, Judy. Let's break for just a second and get this call.
Go ahead, caller. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, the T Bandy.
Hey T, what's going up, bud? What's going on, buddy?
You're cutting in and out this morning.
Oh, it's probably the rain. A little bit of rain, and that just does whoop in.
Yeah. There's not going to be another fish wagon till spring.
All right. How did it go the last time?
Yeah.
Did you do okay the last time?
Do what?
Did you sell a lot of fish?
Yeah, so quite a few, yeah.
Good deal.
No, we in Maryland had to park our car again. The thermostat froze up on it last night, and
It's a mean car.
so we're back in the Ranger again.
There you go.
Went to Hardee's and got us a biscuit.
All righty. Well, have a good day.
You have a nice day.
Thank you, dear.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's good. All right. Hey, it's time for our break here. Every week when we take our break here, before we come back on, we play a song called "Gone Home," and we dedicate that to all the people who have passed in our area and in the nation this week. We're going to dedicate that to the people in Oregon. "Gone Home," and so we'll be back here in about 4 or 5 minutes.
Stay
And
around. Don't go
be
anywhere.
back here on Old Town Cleveland talking about Prater Mill.
Thank you.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WHOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
WHOOP FM is a non-profit community radio station that is made possible by generous donations by individuals and the following sponsors.
Check into cash. The cash you need today is waiting for you at Check into Cash. It's your money, so come in and get it.
Get a payday advance today for up to $425. At Check into Cash, we make it quick, easy, and confidential.
The cash you need is right here, so stop worrying and stop in to Check into Cash today.
Borrowers often use payday advances over a period of months, which can be expensive. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Hardwick Clothes, America's oldest tailor-made clothing company, has been making our best-selling navy blazers for 134 years. Visit Hardwick.com to get the $295 wrinkle-resistant travel blazer at the price of $195. Order by 3 and get by 10. Free next day air. Hardwick.com, America's oldest, and sewn in Cleveland, Tennessee since 1880.
just me.
Welcome back to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, where you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. We're talking about Prater Mill today and North Georgia and Whitfield County. We got Judy Alderman, Marvin Souder, and Ellen Thompson here. And if you'd like to win 2 tickets to Prater's Mill, now's your opportunity. Call 614-5553 and say, I want them tickets.
There you go. First person to call. Okay.
Well, somebody's calling us if they want them tickets.
Them tickets.
Good
I want
morning.
somebody that will use those tickets.
Hey,
Yes.
Hey.
it's RD.
RD, what do you...
I want them tickets.
Dang.
All right.
Okay,
All right.
RD, I'll put your name on them.
They'll be here at the studio here on the console as you come in. Just ask whoever's on the air, and they will give them to you.
Now, RD, there's one trick to this.
What's that?
You have to agree and come do the show with us.
Oh, man. We'll talk about that.
All
Okay.
We'll talk about, I do want to meet you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
RD. Thank you for calling. Bye-bye.
RD calls in with the greatest stories ever. And for several years now, I've been, come on, RD, do the show with us. Oh, I could
Well,
never,
I can't remember any stories after he told the beach story, and I can't ever. And we won't tell that one right
No.
now, but it's a good one.
I want to go
Wait
back.
a minute, we're not talking about food yet. She's got to finish talking about food. We interrupted her. Tell me more about food.
Well, I didn't even talk about the corn fritters cooked with corn ground at Prater's Mill and cooked on the wood burnings.
Oh, my. Now, where are you finding ladies that can still cook on a wood-burning stove?
They're members of the
You need
Church
one
of
of the
God of the
cookbook.
Union Assembly, and they learned to cook from their grandmothers, you know, when you grew up and you were in the kitchen. And so they still know how to cook all of those things.
We may have to go Saturday and Sunday because I don't know if
There
I
you
can
go.
eat all that in one day.
So if you buy a ticket on Saturday and you go back on Sunday, you have to buy tickets again?
Yes, and
Okay.
if you can't come, send $7.
Okay.
We need it.
Well,
It's
it
a
takes a
good
lot of
cause.
money to keep a piece of property.
10
up
would
there.
be better.
10 would be better.
All right.
Yes.
I wanted to go back to the Coca-Cola plant property story just for a moment. I have someone here online tell me that the Coca-Cola plant and those houses are all one piece of property. And Mr. Conley bought all those during the recession so that he could keep his employees busy and not have to let them go.
Yes, that's
So
right.
again, not only did he contribute to the historical preservation, he took good care of his customers during a bad time.
Employees.
Yep, excuse me, employees.
Okay. Well, anything else going there? Barbecues. There are always some
Fried
barbecues.
pies.
Fried pies.
You
Ice
have to have
cream.
funnel cakes. Yes. Now, the fried pies, he cooks those fried pies on their grandfather's cooker. And their grandfather used to go to horse races with that cooker.
Yeah, I love it. Let's get this call.
Oh, good food cooked on old stuff. All right. Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron.
Hey.
Hey,
I have
Red.
a question.
All right.
I bought a picture last year of Prater's Mill. It looks like somebody has painted it, and I don't know who done it.
Judy, any
Can you-
guesses on that?
Can you see a name on it?
No, I've not looked very good, but it looks like it's hand painted.
We have a lot of artists that really love Prater's Mill, and they do paint it.
No clue.
Yeah, look for that name, and then call us, and we can tell you who they are and when it was done.
It says 1967 on it.
Oh,
1967,
Uh-huh.
and you think it's a painting?
I think it is.
And is it color? It's in color.
it's like
Yeah.
watercolor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's,
Wow,
I'm
something
not
I'd
sure.
like to see.
I'll have to look that up, and I'll let Debbie know.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, Red.
bye.
Hey, Red, you got any of that corn liquor? They might let you sell some of it down there.
Did what?
You still got any of that corn liquor you used to make or your husband used to make?
Now, Ron, I told you I quit fooling with that stuff a long time ago.
Speaking of which, our neighbors up in Etowah are going to be getting a distillery soon, and it's going to be in the old Coca-Cola plant.
I thought you were going to say my neighbors was making moonshine down at our house there.
Dalton is getting one too, but Ralph Presley, our retired moonshiner at Prater's Mill, He says that what they have to do because of government is
Yeah.
not the real thing.
That's what I say.
Mhm.
Red could go help with the recipe here.
Yeah.
I think the laws are a little bit easier to work with in Tennessee than they are in Georgia. I know down in
It's the proof that you can only sell so high legally. There's a proof thing. You can't run a batch and sell it at that 160 or 70 proof. Because it hurts.
down in
Ron seems to know a
Dawsonville.
lot about this.
Yeah.
Down in Dawsonville, they can make it there next to the car museum, but
Can't
you have to
sell
go a mile away to buy it.
Debbie, they make it everywhere up there.
Well, let me rephrase that. Make it legally. All righty, Red.
I got one question. for
Sure.
Ron.
All right.
Ron, who's going to win the game today, Georgia or
Georgia.
Alabama?
Georgia's going to win.
Well, I'm pulling for them.
I am too. Anybody beat Alabama, I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Red.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to go back to the Rattling Gourd. So how much property did the Rattling Gourd have there?
Well, you can look on their list of improvements from 1835, and he had several. He had a horse lot, and it was probably several acres. He had 120 acres upland. They called it good upland, and
That the
with a
trees
good
were
fence
cleared off of, and you could either have it as a pasture or as a gardens or
garden.
whatever.
They had a good fence around it. That was one of the things that was
Now,
listed.
where was his property?
Today, if you're going down Dalton Pike or Cleveland Highway, and where Georgia 2 crosses at Varnell, his place was located on the southwest corner of that
The
intersection.
southwest corner. Okay.
And the big Keenan Springs, in the 1830s, they called that Big Springs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they settled there because that was the old federal road.
Yes.
And every 30 miles or so, they would have a stand. And they figured that was how far a stagecoach could go in a day. And so at night, you'd pull up to the stand. It's kind of like modern day Motel 6. It's a place to stay, get something to eat, put your horses in the barn, feed them a good oats and corn, and then the next day you're ready to go. And they'd fix breakfast for you, and then you hit the road again. So,
For our folks here in Bradley County, his son-in-law, Rattling Gord's son-in-law, was William Williams, a Scotsman.
Yeah.
And he lived on what's now Bendabout Farm at the intersection of Old Chattanooga Pike and Old Alabama Road, which is part of the federal road system. And I know that their son, William Williams' son, is buried on that piece of property. And I do think that probably his house is still standing, and we're investigating that at this moment. And so a lot of rich history there with that house and that property. And Mr. Johnston is a good preservationist of history.
Right. The 1838 here in Bradley County, of course, the beginning of the Trail of Tears, or the last, I should say the last of the Trail of Tears, not the beginning, because it had started years before. When was the last Cherokees officially moved out of Georgia north into Tennessee?
that it got into 1839 in the winter, through the winter and the early spring of 39 before the Trail of Tears was actually over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they moved out of Georgia first, though, didn't they? I mean,
they couldn't do any business there.
Well, it didn't. Georgia start
Letting people
seizing
in.
land and
Georgia took over the Cherokee Nation, and it was illegal. There was a whole series of laws passed against the Cherokees. It was illegal for them to do business in Georgia, so they just moved across the line at Red Clay into Tennessee. And one of the last councils, the 1835 council, where they agreed to give up their rights and go on the Trail of Tears, took place in Red Clay in Tennessee. And William Williams that we were talking about, he owned properties there at Rattling Gorge Stand, and he was dispossessed in 1831 by the state of Georgia, and he actually moved into Tennessee, which wasn't that much of a distance, but he moved across the state line into Tennessee. He had 5 different improvements here, 5 in Bradley County. Yeah,
One of them was at Red Clay.
One of them was at Red Clay. One of them was at Candice Creek, and
That's the one I know where it's
I
at.
think that's where he lived because the best house and the best properties it was at.
And
Candice
obviously
Creek.
had 2 wives, it looks like, on the census, which was not unusual at
I
that
think
time.
he had 3 wives.
Well, he had 2 of them at that time. And folks, you will be able to link him to Hare Conrad, which the Hare Conrad cabin's still standing. I believe his wife was the niece of Hare Conrad. And who's Wolf Stand?
Wolf Stand was actually Rattling Gord had. There were 5 of those children. Rattling Gord had 4 brothers and sisters, and one of his brothers was Young Wolf.
Okay.
And when he married, his family took the name of Wolf. And William Williams married Donna Wolf, I believe that was her name, and she was the daughter of Young Wolf.
Okay, what happened to Rattling Gord?
Well, they say he's buried up there at Rattling Gord Stand, and best I can determine from what I've been told, there is a substation built over where his grave was now.
What happened to William Williams?
Well, he left Georgia, and in 31 and 32, he was in Georgia. In 35, he was in Tennessee. And beyond that point, I haven't really investigated his demise.
I can't find him. I lose him, and I'm thinking as a white man, he was able to stay here, unless.
Well, he was dispossessed in Georgia because his wife was Cherokee.
Well, I'm pretty sure the reservation that she had, that they had here, was hers. Was given to her. Or the reserve. It's not a reservation; it's a reserve. Very interesting stuff.
I know that.
What happened to Wolf Stand? Hang on. You know what happened to Wolf?
After the I know Judge Keenan. He was a circuit court judge for the Cherokee District in Georgia, and he bought that property and actually lived in the Wolf Stand in the house there. It was a double log cabin, 2-story, and there's good details about the house. It had
Okay,
big
is
stone.
that was Rattling Gord's house, or was it the same house?
Rattling Gord, Widow Rattling Gord ran it, but I think Mrs. Wolf actually ran. There were several houses there, and they all lived there in the community. And Ebenezer Newton came through there in 1818. He was a missionary, anyhow. He went through there and had an experience with Miss Wolf, and he called her. He said her wolf-like appearance, so he didn't think too much of her. He tried to get her to fix chicken for their breakfast and let them fix the rest of the meal because they had provisions with them, and she wouldn't do it. So she fixed the meal. He said the breakfast was really good, but we never did get her fowl. He didn't get any chicken for breakfast.
And that's in a diary?
That's in the diary.
And who was the?
Ebenezer Newton.
I hadn't heard of him. Okay, you can see that Marvin and I could talk for hours without taking a breath.
Absolutely.
Marvin, my limited amount of history, is that the Cherokee Nation sued the state of Georgia and went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that Georgia couldn't do that. But Georgia did it anyway because the president at that time never enforced the Supreme Court. And to my knowledge, it's the only time a sitting president of the United States never enforced a Supreme Court ruling. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that's interesting. And did the people in Georgia, did they start in South Georgia and move up, or did they start here in the Whitfield County area? Where did they start?
They were everywhere that there was water and good land.
And gold.
And, well,
the gold,
bless their
definitely.
hearts.
Yes.
Let's get this call.
Yeah. Go ahead, caller. You're live.
Oh, Ron.
Hey.
I'd like to ask, I'm getting a lot of feedback on this. I'd like to ask if the Spring Place Mission is marked, that location.
We'll talk. Pat, do you want to hang up and listen?
Well, I wanted to say one more thing.
Okay. I know you said you were having a hard time hearing. Go ahead.
Okay, I run across a book just recently about the Spring Place Mission. It's based on chronicles of John and Anna Gambo, that was missionaries there serving there. And it seemed like it. You know, there's a lot of material known about that mission.
Well, thankfully, the people could read and write that were there, and they wrote about their adventures. I'm going to let Marvin answer your questions.
Okay.
Spring Place Mission.
We just know exactly now where the mission cemetery was. For years, it had disappeared and been plowed over since the late 1800s. And we mentioned a while ago, something was mentioned about ground penetrating radar, and the people at Spring Place at the Van House, Miss Bonds gave them some property, and we used the ground penetrating radar and actually located the cemetery where the graves are, and now have that marked. And there is a map that from that period that shows the Van House and the creeks and things, and shows where all the mission
Now, Marvin,
property.
if you turn east at the Van House, you'll see the cemetery then a short distance away.
It'll be on the right, just maybe 500 feet up the road there.
So you go to the Van House and take a left, and then the cemetery's a short distance on the right. And, you know, it's just kind of a cleared off spot with a few signs there that tell you what you're looking at.
Yeah, we don't have every grave in the cemetery marked, but we do have a monument there that lists the names of the known people that are buried there. And, of course, Chief Hicks is one of them.
Fabulous.
And these diaries you're talking about were written in German, and they were just recently transcribed and published. And now I think there's maybe 6 of them that have been published. And these are the mission diaries that the missionaries kept.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Pat, for calling.
Bye.
Go. Use the microphone, Judy.
Wasn't the mission located where the Lucy Hill School was in the spring?
Yes, there's a big spring they call the Lucy Hill Spring, and that was the one that serviced the mission house there at Spring Place.
I think the last time that Ron and I were down in the area that we actually stopped was when you were I went down for the Christmas candle light tour a few years ago, and then Ron and I went down for the 50th anniversary of the park or something like that, and that was really exciting to us. We know that Ron's family donated a coverlet, but we're not sure which one it was, and I'm sure there's probably records there that tell that. I wanted to go back to William Williams. We were talking about him being here in Bradley County at the old Alabama Road and Chattanooga Pike intersection. He had a dam and a mill and that 2-story house that I think is still there. And then a short distance away, he got paid also for a mineral springs. And everybody listening that knows this area, I went, Tucker Springs. Yes, there were some kind of little huts and tubs there that he was paid for. And so they had a spa. That's what they had.
Didn't they call those troughs, I believe?
Yes, troughs. That's the word. That he got paid for the troughs, and I know where that location's at. We all do. And I think that's interesting. And he was a son-in-law of Fradlin Gord, and he operated the stagecoach stop there. Now, Bendabout Farms has moved a stagecoach stop, a log cabin, several times. They've been there since William Williams left the property. They purchased it from him. John Tucker did. And the stagecoach stop has been moved, but it is still standing. And it has been had air and heating and electricity added to it to make it useful. And it's located there on Bendabout Farms. Isn't that wonderful?
I didn't know this, but
and
that's
recently, Mr. Johnston had to dismantle a barn that he had purchased, the Wolf Barn, by the way, and it had started to deteriorate, and he did not want to just burn it to the ground, which is what usually happens to buildings of that type. So when he had to dismantle it, all the logs that were still useful, especially the huge beams that were in there, were moved to the stagecoach site, the cabin site, and they're going to build onto the stagecoach house reusing those materials. Which at first I was kind of upset that the barn went down, but I said, okay, if we're recycling, I'm okay with it, because the barn was just going to fall otherwise. Ron?
You're listening to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. If you're out of town, it's 423-614-5553. We're talking about Prater Mill and we're talking about the county fair, Prater Mill County Fair. Is it a county fair? Country fair, excuse me, country fair. We're also talking about, if you have any questions about Whitfield County, Murray County history or Cherokee history from down in that area there, give us a call. The fair is next Saturday from the 10th and the 11th. I kept saying from 10, from 9 to 6 on the 10th, and 9 to 6, 9 to 5. 9 to 5. And on Sunday. And the price is $7. Go down Dalton Pike, go into Georgia, and take the first traffic light to the left, and then you just can't miss it if you've never been there. Today we're talking with Judy Alderman, Marvin Sauer, and Ellen Thompson, and give us a call. And once again, coming up next week is the Supreme Court Justice of the Cherokee Nation will be here, Troy Wayne Petit. The week after that, we'll have Gerald Hodges here talking about some of the Cherokee Indian history coming out of McMinn County and Polk County.
He'll be doing Civil War history.
And also Civil War. And also, if you want to talk about the train that goes around Polk County Mountain up there, give us a call.
LNN. Yeah.
The LNN. And then on the 24th, I will turn on the machines and leave because Deb and Laura Brian's fan. And also... Robbie Cody will be here with you
to answer all your modern day questions.
Can you bury someone in your front yard, or do you have to? Do you have to embalm
people? All those questions you want to ask me and Laura, and we don't know the answers to. We only know the old dead people.
But if you want to know where anybody's buried in Bradley County, just ask them, and they will tell you, and who their family members are, and what kind of coffin they had. Pretty bad. And then on the 31st of October, we're going to talk about Ghost and Haints. And right now, we're going to give away 2 more tickets. And the guy, you got to call and say, I want them tickets.
Ron, I wanted to mention...
Call 614, 2 tickets to the Prater
I wanted
Mill
to mention
Country
that
Fair.
McMinn County Historical Society will be having their meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
You got it too, hey?
At the courthouse in downtown Athens. And the executive director of the Tennessee Historical Society, Cheryl Henderson, we'll be there talking about the First Families of Tennessee program. And those would be people that were here when Tennessee was established, and many of you have family members that would qualify for that. So she'll be there tomorrow speaking at 2 o'clock at the Athens Courthouse. Be sure to go out and support the McMinn County Historical Society. They have a very nice library there.
All right. That's great. The mill was built, tell me again what year?
1855.
That's a few years ago.
And there was a mill there before.
Oh.
And we know there was a mill there in 1847.
How do we know that?
He does.
He does. Because Marvin said so.
Exactly. But one thing we haven't talked about were the families. We have the white Praters, the brown Praters, and the black Praters. And so I wanted to talk about them. Charles Prater was a Cherokee at Red Clay, and his Cherokee name was Tall Tree. And so it became time for the Trail of Tears, and he decided he didn't want to go. And so he didn't. Well, he fell into, I think it's called involuntary servitude. He fell in with the Pittner family, who had come in actually before 1838 as settler. And then he later married Rebecca, their slave. And Rebecca worked for Ben and Amanda Prater. And so they, according to their family legend, Ben and Amanda asked them to carry the Prater name because Ben and Amanda had had several children that had died. And those descendants this Thursday were at Prater's Mill with the descendants of the Pittners, who their name now is Manley. And they placed a historical marker telling about their family. What happened is Ben Prater's 17 slaves during the Battle of Barnell Station were brought to the porch of the mill. They could hear the gunfire, that was a cavalry battle, right? So can you imagine what everybody was thinking? You know, as you could hear that battle, imagine what would happen. And so anyway, at the end of the war, 17 slaves were freed, and they still live in Cohutta. And they have relatives living in Bradley County. And some of them carry the Pittner name, and some carry the Prater name, because you could have brothers that chose a different name to carry on. But we say there is only one history, and that's everybody's history. So we wanted you to know about that, and those families have been in contact with each other all those years.
Yeah, they're the Pittner family. Remember C.L. Pittner, right off Inland Street over in the ward. Yeah, so I would. That was the.
But one interesting thing about that, there is a song about Charles Prater. There is a play about Charles Prater. You see, he had to give up his Indian ways in order to survive. And I was telling my friend Betty Boland Blackwell, I said, I'm surprised at how many people in this area have Cherokee ancestry. And she said, that's new, because they couldn't bring that forward, until now. And of course, they're proud of it, and that's wonderful. But those people have been here all along; they've just been underground.
Yeah, when in those 1830s, I guess they, if you were Cherokee, you didn't have to leave; you just couldn't own anything, and you just existed. I mean, is that a good way of saying that?
Yeah,
Margaret?
you could deny that you were Cherokee.
Right.
You said, okay, I'm not Cherokee anymore.
Or you could run.
That's
hide
what
in
my
the mountains.
grandpa Clayton said. Well, you wouldn't put in writing that you were related to the Indians, because look what happened to them the last time they said that they were, Cherokee. Very interesting.
So Marvin, it basically is that true that it's just, if you said, if you were Cherokee, you didn't have to leave, I understand, but you couldn't own anything.
Well, sort of, kind of, maybe.
Yeah,
there were some Cherokees that renounced their citizenship to the Cherokee Nation and became citizens of the United States of America. And today, a lot of their descendants are members of the Eastern Band that live in North Carolina.
Yeah, of course. Now, a lot of Indian ladies had married white gentlemen, and for some reason, those white gentlemen went ahead and sent them on out to Cherokee.
Not to Cherokee, sent them on out to Oklahoma, some of them.
And never followed.
Kind of stayed back and kept the land.
Yeah, and never brought them back.
If you were a Cherokee man, you went on the Trail of Tears.
Yes.
If you were a Cherokee woman, you weren't considered a threat. And if you happened to be married to a white man or something, maybe you could stay here. A lot of them did. And if you talk to people in this area and they have Cherokee blood, most of them can trace it back to a Cherokee woman that stayed here or maybe went west, and a lot of them came back afterwards.
Like I said, but we know a lot of instances where the white man married the Cherokee to get land, and great portions of land here in downtown Cleveland are good examples of it, and then they just sort of sent the ladies out and
said, you go on, I'll be out there in a little while and pick you up, darling.
Yeah.
See, the Scotsmen came in here early, and the Cherokees accepted them because they had a clan way of life, the clans, and that, the Cherokees had the 7 clans, and they were accepted, and a lot of them took Cherokee wives. And like Jovan, the Chief Cherokee Jovan at Spring Place, he was 1/8 Cherokee. But his ancestors, his grandfathers, had married into the Cherokee Nation years before.
Yeah, John Ross was what?
He was
1/8 or 1/16.
Yeah, I think that's
something pretty
right.
low.
Yeah, he became the and
they call those mixed bloods,
right?
The mixed blood Cherokee.
And but now to be accepted as a true blood, all you had to be is live the Cherokee lifestyle. Is that a
in
true
the
statement?
old days?
In the
old days,
you accepted, yeah.
In the 1835 census, you'll see a lot of Cherokees that have European names, but out by the side, they're full-bloods.
I know that some of Ron's family members from the 1850s, we find them up in Cherokee, North Carolina, and their names are listed in both English and Cherokee, but they're all listed as white. You know, just in case, let's list ourselves as white.
For some reason, I don't look a lot like any
I'm-
Cherokees. Yeah, out there. So I don't claim that. So
We sent you a lot of fine folks after the Civil War too. You got Mr. Tibbs that married into the Hardwick family here that opened up the hotel in downtown Dalton. I believe he was a Confederate congressman. Yes, and matter of fact, Mrs. Hardwick, the old Mrs. Hardwick, actually died there, I think, at either his home or at the hotel, and they're buried there in Whitfield County.
well, did Euclid Waterhouse?
Euclid Waterhouse, he had his fingers in everything.
Yeah,
he was in Murray County, he was in Whitfield County, he was in Bradley County.
He had a big grist mill there.
Where was it?
It was up in the north end of Murray County, pretty close to the county line there.
Where his old house is?
Yeah.
Okay. What waterway did it run off of?
It's water powered.
It was water powered, but was see, I'm not seeing. I don't know where the creek
Shumack,
was. Shumack, okay,
maybe, yeah.
Like where Shumack Church is. That's where Ron's relatives, the Dunns, are buried.
When I was 16, the first bank account that I had was in Hardwick Bank and Trust Company, and that was established in 1873 by Frank Hardwick from
Yes.
Cleveland.
Yes.
We have a Cleveland-Dalton connection. I
Well,
love
that's why
Cleveland.
we have you guys on, because you can't hardly talk about Bradley County that Murray County and Whitfield County doesn't come up, or Ottawa or James County or McMinn County, because it was there were few people lived here, but they were all connected. They were married or whatever, ran the same businesses just in different locations.
And even before that, the Cherokee Nation, there was no dividing line as far as the Cherokees were concerned. Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, North Carolina.
Then once
parts of
Georgia
Kentucky.
was established, basically what's Bradley County now, with a little bit of Polk County and a little bit of like what was James County mixed into it, was the Cherokee Nation. And it's probably at this moment the most historic undocumented place in America. And the National Park Service has been to Charleston, and we're getting it marked for the first time, and we're really excited about that.
That's good.
And 9 local folks made it happen.
You're a member of the Trail of Tears Association?
I am.
Tennessee chapter?
Tennessee chapter.
Very active chapter in that regard.
And you were telling me before we went on the air that Ron and I are getting ready to go out to Missouri to the National Trail of Tears meeting, but next year it's going to be where?
Going to be in Dalton, Georgia.
I am so excited about that. Because I think I've been to, this is going to be my 6th or 7th one that I've been to, and I think this is the 20th year or the 25th year.
I've always learned something every one I've ever been to.
Absolutely. And I know that our girls from Charleston, Diane Goins and I think Melissa Woody, did a presentation there last year about what had happened in Charleston. And to see the National Park Service come in with that 1835 immigration map, and you could slap a map from today on top of it, and those fields are still pristine that had the encampments in them. So America can come and see it now. And pretty soon we're going to have our driving tour done, that you'll get a map and you can go from one farm to the next. And obviously there's no original buildings there, but you can stand there and just imagine and be told by the signage what happened in those places. And so that's real exciting for us historians. It's an ugly story to tell, but we need to tell that story.
You learn from your history. Some wise man once said, if you don't, you're doomed to repeat it.
That's right. That's right. But I know that a lot of folks, for one reason or the other, I often wonder when I see, after the war, so-and-so moved to Dalton. Was Dalton a little bit more sympathetic for the Confederates?
Dalton wasn't necessarily
Either side?
Well, Dalton had 3 representatives to the secession convention, and 2 of them voted not to secede.
Oh.
So a lot of sympathies in Dalton in the North Georgia area were pro-Union. That's not to say that they weren't some diehard Confederates, because they raised 5 or 6 companies out of Whitfield County that fought in the Civil War. But a lot of the Union soldiers that came through Dalton during the war liked what they saw. The weather was nice, and it was just a great place to live. So after the war, what do you think they did? They brought their money and they came back and settled in this area.
Do you think that North Georgia that wasn't as big on secession because the slave ownership, here in Bradley County, there was probably only 200 slaves in the county when the war broke out. I mean, maybe 2,000. Maybe that's the number. Only about 2,000, and most of them were servants.
Yeah, East Tennessee was pro-union, very pro-union.
Oh, yeah, and we voted to secede from Tennessee.
Yeah, right.
There we go with Polk County.
And of course, Tennessee said you can't succeed. We're succeeding, but you can't. And so, but yeah, East County. But is that the same in North Georgia? There wasn't a lot of plantation or huge slave owners.
There were a few.
Dalton.
They were about 3 large slave owners, and they had plantations, and the fertile bottomlands is where they farmed.
Was it cotton
But
back
what
then?
brought people and attracted people to Dalton was the fact that 2 railroads merged in Dalton. And during the Civil War, Dalton was bigger than Chattanooga. I mean, it was the biggest town between
Was that
Chattanooga
Western
Atlanta.
and what was it?
It was
Western.
the East Tennessee, Georgia, and Virginia Railroad come out of Cleveland, and the Western Atlantic, which was the state-owned road that run from Atlanta to actually through a series of other connections. It came from Savannah all the way to Chattanooga and the Tennessee River and opened up, the south to the Mississippi River.
What was the biggest battle in Dalton? Was there any really big battles there? I know they're not any super
Not
large.
huge ones, but it was more guarding the
Just
roads like it was here.
Sort of like Bradley County. Everybody marched through here in Dalton to go burn other places and fight at Chickamauga and Chattanooga and Atlanta.
We had several, probably most historians refer to them as skirmishes.
Right.
But the Battle of Rocky Face Ridge, the Battle at Tunnel Hill, the Battle at Varnell was fought at Varnell. And then the first battle where both armies were fully engaged was the Battle of Resaca. And that's, Sherman had sent McPherson around through Snake Creek Gap and forced Johnson to give up Dalton, and he retired back to Resaca. And so both armies in their entireties met, and the first big battle was at the Battle of Resaca.
We were kind of disappointed with the battlefield there. I guess we'd been to so many that weren't chopped up and stuff, and that one, unfortunately, there's a little piece of it over on this side of the road and a little piece over on this side, but a very nice cemetery.
Yeah, the cemetery's nice. Yeah. We almost had a big battle here. There was a torpedo factory here.
A rolling mill.
They were making some kind of bomb, and the Union troops were coming in to burn it down, and the Confederate troops were coming in to stop them. But the plant owner decided he'd just blow it up before they got there, and it started blowing up, scared both of them, they all ran.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the Civil War activity at Prater's Mill.
Well, you had both armies were there at various times. And the Union Army had come out of Cleveland, and LaGrange, I believe was his name, Colonel LaGrange, and they came down into Murray County around the Boiling Springs community and captured Wheeler's topographers who were out there drawing maps. And part of that map, if you look at the one that the Confederates drew of Murray County, there's a big empty place in the top of the map. And that showed up after the war as captured rebel documents. They had taken that from Captain Smith, who was up there actually in the process of mapping that area of Murray County. And so they captured these fellas, several of them, took them back to Cleveland, and so Wheeler then went back to Cleveland to try to get his topographers back, and he was beaten back. But he left Cleveland, then came back to Prater's Mill and spent the night there. His whole troops, about 5,000, I guess, spent the night, camped there, probably slept in the mill, maybe ate some corn muffins or something.
The lucky ones slept in the mill. The rest of them camped out with the skeeters, I'm sure.
I'm sure they probably used the corn up.
Yeah.
There's something big happened in Murray County, and I'm sure that Gerald Hodge is going to be the one that helps this mystery. I know that shortly before Vicksburg, everybody in my family joined the Confederate Army, and including my grandpa that was like 58, my great whatever grandpa that was 58 at that time. And I thought something happened in their backyard that made them do that, and I don't know what it was, but maybe what was Vicksburg was July 4th of 63. So it's something that happened shortly before that. I think they all joined in April. Either they were coming through and making them join the Union Army, or the Union Army had come through and made them mad. I don't know what it was.
We know when the war broke, when it started, everybody thought, 90 days and everything would be over. So everybody rushed to be a part of the Army and make their glory and come home as heroes, but we all know that didn't happen. So there was another big push a year later for new recruitments, and the 39th Georgia and these other units were organized at that time. But the first ones that left out of Dalton was the Dalton Guards. They were a unit that had been organized for 10 or 15 years, and they were the first to leave Dalton, and they went to Virginia and fought in the Army of Northern Virginia. But in 63, that was a turning point. You had all these. Vicksburg was surrounded and captured and was under siege for so many days. They were reduced to eating
horses and
rats and cane, just whatever they could get to keep from starving. They surrendered on the 4th of July. I think that was to make a big point, because that was our nation's independence.
Yes.
The Army of Tennessee, Mississippi surrendered there and they were all paroled. And they came back home and went to various places in Georgia and reorganized. And some of them made it back to the Battle of Chickamauga. A lot of them didn't, but joined.
I know
later.
my great-grandpa was shot. The minie ball went in under one eye by his ear and came out through his mouth on the other side, knocked all of his teeth out. Now, can you imagine what a severe wound that was now? But imagine in those days. And his sons and nephews managed to get him back to Murray County somehow when he was released. His brother was shipped to New Orleans or somewhere and died on the way. The Confederate, and he's down there in the Confederate cemetery. We hadn't gone to visit him yet, but I'm sure I'll get there someday. But, and then when he obviously didn't re-enlist, he probably spent the rest of his life just trying to live, and he wasn't eligible for a pension and died in Ramsey, what is it? Ramhurst. Yeah. He was there on the big Ramsey farm, I think, if there's such a thing, and we think perhaps he's buried there because there's 2 unmarked graves there, and we're pretty sure that was he and his wife, but we have no proof.
You're listening to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. We've still got 2 tickets to give away here. Say, call, I want them there tickets. Just call in.
I think
here.
our phone must be stuck because we usually get a call by now. I wanted to mention to everybody that Jackson's Manufacturers open on Saturday mornings, and they do a lot of nice things for people here in the community.
Get you a catnapper.
I tell you, we bought the biggest old couch you've ever seen in your life. We've got a call.
All right. Find the right button. Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
That's good.
Is this Pat?
It's Dave Cook. How you doing?
Oh, David
Dave
Cook.
Hey, how are you?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what's going on, buddy.
I was going to ask your guest there on a lot of the Civil War maps that I have of Prater's Mill. Sometimes they name it Russell's or Barrett's Mill. I didn't know if he had any information on that. Why was it named different names?
I mentioned that there was a mill before Prater's Mill, and that was Joel Barrett's Mill. And Russell, we believe, was a family member of the Pittner family. They also believe he built Prater's Mill, physically. He was a bridge builder, and the family says that, he knew how to handle big timbers, which you would have needed that skill in order to build Prater's Mill because it's post and beam construction. So we're very interested in Joel Barrett. Marvin believes he was a Northern sympathizer and that he just went up north after the war, but we really don't know.
Yeah, because I've got a few hand-drawn maps of that area, and it also shows a couple of more mills just a little northeast of Prater's Mill between the old Concord Church and Prater's Mill along that stream. I didn't know if you had something like that. If not, I'll share it with you sometime.
I'm sure Marvin would love a copy of that,
Oh,
David.
yeah, we take anything.
So would Debbie. Yeah.
That's how we learn, because we don't know it all. We're just striving to learn.
Well, listen, good show.
Thanks, David.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
All right, bye-bye. David is a metal detector and a unbelievable researcher when it comes to Civil War locations.
Unbelievable.
Go ahead, caller. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yes, sir. Do you still have the tickets for?
We do.
You want them there tickets?
You thank you. I do.
All right.
Who is this?
This is Connie Green.
Green. What was your first name?
Connie.
Connie.
Connie. Okay.
They'll be here at Whoop Studio, and just come in anytime there's someone live in here, and they can pick up the tickets here.
Well, okay, sir. Thank you so much, and have a good weekend.
Hey, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
I wanted to mention that in the picture that you have up on the web,
Yeah.
those are the Black Praters.
Oh, I see.
And the man to the right is George Kyle, the one, the miller who helped Wayne get the mill started. So this would have been one of the very early fairs. It could be 1971. See, doesn't it say first Saturday every month?
Yes. What is the Cohutta sign there? What does that say?
That was a pack of people from Cohutta that had a booth selling handmade things. I talked to a young man who was a Boy Scout at the time, and he put in some Boy Scout stuff. But they had crocheting and, some homemade food. And
It was really interesting. I mean, it's interesting now, but it was really homespun those first few years, and it was really a nice treat. Let's get this call.
Go ahead, caller.
Good morning. This is Alice Ames, and another great program once again. I might have missed it, but does Prater's Mill still do the boiled peanuts?
Boiled peanuts.
Yes, we'll have boiled peanuts.
Okay, that's my favorite. Okay.
Thanks, Alan.
Bye-bye.
And you will see Alice standing in line next week for the boiled peanuts. Guys, this is
I might be there for like barbecue and the corn fritters and the greens.
I think the
and,
last time we stayed over on the mill side for a long time, and then when we crossed over the road, they had sold out of a lot of the foods.
Yeah.
And we're there on Sunday afternoon. So when you go hungry and go get that food first.
Well, go Saturday and Sunday. That way you can't miss it, right?
You know, the thing I really like about Prater's Mill is, first of all, the enthusiasm of the folks like you that make it happen. But the Boy Scouts, you see the Boy Scout leaders out there helping the Boy Scouts park the cars and get the people on the little trams and giving directions and giving suggestions where you can park if you have somebody handicapped with you and those things like that. It's just a big community involvement event.
You can also do canoeing there, too.
Yes.
How much is the
Ride
canoe cost?
horses and
I'm not sure, but you can do pony rides as well and horse rides.
Ron wants to do the pony ride.
What weight do you have to be? I mean, is there a
I think
weight limit?
they have a limit.
Oh, okay. All right.
The pony would have to ride
Pony
you.
rides were probably out for me then.
I wanted to tell you that the folklorist once said about Prater's Mill, we have 30 civic clubs, churches, schools, and organizations involved with the fair. But she said some events are put on by an organization. Prater's Mill is put on for the community. Prater's Mill is the community. So we like that.
I imagine you have lots of pictures from the beginning meal.
Tons.
What about video?
We
Movies?
have video.
Movies?
Yes, and our archival practices are archaic. We
Most
have
history people are for some reason.
I know it.
We keep everything.
Yeah, we've got to do better preserving all of these things. And I just had a floppy disk here.
Yeah. Oh, a floppy disk. Yeah. Good luck finding something that'll run that. I ran into that a couple years ago. I was the generation before that, the big floppy disk.
We have those too.
And I had all the Stevenson family history on that. And I thought, well, being in the school system, surely they have an antique computer here somewhere. Well, they had just gotten rid of all of the old computers. And so there it was. And so I just had to go back and find a typed copy and retype everything. But I think that I'm so proud of you guys and the work that the Historical Society has done. I mean, you've got these 8 properties. How that is just absolutely outstanding. And can someone tell us a little bit about the going to visit the Van House? I know it's not open every day because it's a Georgia State Park. What days is it open, Ellen?
I believe Thursday, Friday, and Saturday now. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay.
And tell for the people who don't know what the Van House is, that means you hadn't lived here a long time. But that's okay. I mean, if you moved in, tell them what the Van House is real quick.
Van House was built about 1803, 1805. 1805?
Yeah.
And was, well, what would you say, a showplace of the Cherokee Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, it's 2-story, brick, and has undergone an amazing renovation in the past 60 or 65
years. From one extreme to
years.
the other, too.
It really has, because at the time the Historical Society organized to preserve it, it was obviously an old house that was very run down. It was 150 years old by that time.
Wasn't it some families that just moved in it and had been living in it?
Different people had lived there after the Cherokees were forced to leave. Different people owned it, and they would sell it, and it would be passed down through a lot of different families. And like many old houses, it, needed painting and needed a lot of renovation.
It needed a lot there towards the end.
Absolutely. So
it's a 2-story brick house.
It is brick.
And it was the Chief Joseph Van.
Rich Joe.
And then Major Ridge lived in the house too, didn't he?
I don't know. Did he?
James Van.
James Van did not. Major Ridge did he ever live there?
I wasn't aware that he did.
Why do I think that?
Major Ridge lived in Rome.
Okay.
The Ridge House. Yeah.
The Ridge House in Rome.
Okay.
So never mind. I got my stories mixed up here together. Huh?
But the wonderful thing to me is over the years they've collected furniture, a few original pieces that had been in the house, but then other pieces that would have been made and used in that era have been donated. And of course they have the separate museum that, in addition to what's in the house,
corn cribs and
that
museums
that shares all the history of the Van House and of the Cherokees during that era.
Complex.
How many acres is that now? I know it's started.
Oh, boy.
They keep buying more.
I don't know how many acres it is.
40 or 400?
No,
it's just 40 or less than 40, I think.
It was probably 640 at one time.
Probably.
It was probably.
Tim Howard knows all about this. He's laughing to hear what we have to say.
We raised over $1 million to buy the property across the street.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to become a trailer park.
Oh, okay. I remember that.
Good move.
Remember. Good move.
Because their dream, is to have the property around it look like it did in the era of the house, with corn growing and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Now, where would Spring Place Mission, was it close to the cemetery? Do we know? We know exactly where it was. Marvin's shaking his head. Honey, this is radio. You got to talk.
Lucy Hill Academy, the spring there was in front of the mission house.
Okay.
And then the cemetery was in the orchard out east of where the mission house stood. And the Van House was across the creek and up northeast or northwest of the mission house. It was all a community there. And Spring Place, I guess, was probably the first big town in Maury County at one time. It was,
well, and everybody writes about Spring Place. Yeah. And, of course, we have Spring Place Road because that went to Spring Place.
Yeah, Highway 225.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the old maps, it says Road to Spring Place. It became Spring Place.
If you want to go to the Van House, get on Spring Place Road here in Bradley County and just go south, and you'll come up and you'll see a beautiful old brick 2-story home with white columns in front of it on your left, down in
white
Georgia.
Columns?
Yeah, they're white.
Okay.
And you're there. I mean, you cannot miss it going down.
And you'll see the front of the house. A lot of people think the front of the house faces the road the other way.
Right.
But if you, like you said, if you start in Cleveland and head south, you'll see the front of the house the way the people did who first arrived there.
What is that crossroad right behind the house then? What's the name of it?
Is
225.
225 goes. That is 225.
Is
It
that
goes straight.
52
So what
alternate
goes?
now they
Is it
call it?
52 alternate?
So at 225, 52 alternate, you would see it. But if you just go down Spring Place, beautiful ride down through Georgia, and you'll see it on the left side. So how many miles from here? A few, 30?
Probably.
30 at the most?
Probably not.
Probably
not more than that.
26, 26 or something like that. I've seen that. I
You'll
think
go through the middle of Dalton, right?
no, not the middle of
No.
Dalton. You're over on Spring Place,
I'm
darling.
on-
You
I'm
go
on-
over the double bridges, past the Euclid Waterhouse house.
I'm
and
going down
been-
another road. I'm sorry.
Well, Ron's been on the wrong road all day. I think the thing that they really did that was great is they went back and they researched what colors would have been in the house during the Cherokee times. So you get to see the kinds of paints and things that would have been on the wall. Now, if you can't see very well, don't go during the candlelight tour. Because if you're old like me and you need light to see, go during the daytime and then go back at night and see their beautiful candlelit tour at Christmas.
And if you're tall, be careful. The ceilings are not as high.
Yeah.
Just to get the brouhaha starts here at 2:00 here at the Village Green. You can come buy tickets here if you like beer. This is the place to be this afternoon.
I think it's going to be a big crowd and it's going to be a fun day.
All right.
Guys, be sure to go out and see Prater's Mill next week.
The
On
10th
Saturday.
and 11th, and it's from 9 to 6 and 9 to 5. It's on Saturday. Let's get this again. 9 to 6, and on Sunday it is 9 to 5. That's on the 10th and the 11th.
Yes, and
It's
the Tractor
seven-
Show in Charleston will be also at that same time.
$7 to get in down there.
And it's
food
worth-
and music.
And we'll be there.
Right. Yes, we
Sunday
will.
afternoon, I think we'll be there.
Right.
Well, folks, thank you so much for coming up swimming up in the rain. And we are hoping that you have a nice, beautiful weekend for next weekend. And we make lots of money to help preserve Prater's Mill.
Right. We always try to tell people it's your responsibility to save history. You've got to start by going getting the pictures out of the shoe boxes and out of the drawers and under the bed, wherever you have them, and have someone in your family help you sit down and get some little white labels and write down who's in those pictures first off. Then grab your cameras, your movie cameras, and sit down with your grandfathers and your uncles and your aunts and just record them, ask them questions about their daddy and their mama and their grandparents. And you got to save history, because if we don't do it, it's going to go away. I'm afraid in the future, since we take all of our pictures on our cell phones now, there won't be any real pictures left anymore. So history may be in trouble. So it's our responsibility to start saving. And as we always say here on Old Town Cleveland, you'll always remember about Pearl Harbor. But Deb,
Will we remember Aunt Pearl? See you guys next week on Old Town Cleveland.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Shopping mall. Ooh, where'd the old town go? Did my hometown get old, or just me? Did all my friends get old, or just me? Are they all gonna have to be told, or just me?
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
If you need a